Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. We've talked a lot of Michigan football over the last couple of weeks, and a lot of people in the comment section expressing questions about this Michigan program heading into 2024. We even had a comment the other day saying, hey, Michigan's going to go 6-6 in 2024. And although I think a lot of Michigan fans understand the question marks a lot of college football fans have about this program, I think we all know that this Michigan team is going to be a heck of a lot better than 6-6 and is really going to remain one of the more dangerous teams in the country. I want to get into two different things. One, the question marks that a lot of college football fans have about this program, but I think more importantly, answering some of those question marks and diving into why this Michigan team is still going to be extremely dangerous in 2024. Fired up to get into this one. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys, to the Michigan fans. It's been a blast talking this program. You guys know I'm a massive Michigan fan. I can't thank you guys enough for rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Much more importantly, whether you're a Michigan fan, just a college football fan, doing some research on Michigan, would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. I always learn a ton from you guys. I have a blast talking ball with you guys, so let it fly in the comment section. And without further ado, let's get into this one, and let's start with the question marks that a lot of people have about this Michigan team. And I think a lot of Michigan fans are going to sit there and say a lot of these questions are absolutely fair, right? You lose your head coach in Jim Harbaugh to the NFL. You lose a top 10 NFL draft pick in J.J. McCarthy at the quarterback position to the NFL. The whole Michigan offensive line is going to be playing on Sundays. You lose your star running back, Blake Corum, and a plethora of Michigan guys on the defensive side of the football as well. There are a lot of positions and talent that Michigan needs to replace, not only from a personnel standpoint, but from a coaching standpoint as well. Now you get into why this Michigan team can still be really dangerous in 2024. It starts with the recipe that has won Michigan these games the last couple of years. That is running the football and playing good defense. And you look at those two things, those two main objectives for this Michigan program, they're still going to be able to run the football and play really good defense. Let's start on the offensive side of the football first, where I think a lot of the questions that a lot of outside college football fans have about this Michigan program is, what are you going to do at the quarterback spot? And I think a lot of Michigan fans probably have some question marks as well. Now, it does sound like it's going to be Alex Orji, and something that, I really want to highlight is Michigan doesn't ask a ton from their quarterbacks. Heck, they just had a top 10 NFL draft pick back-to-back seasons, not even throw for 3,000 yards. They had one of the most talented quarterbacks in all of college football. They didn't ask him to do a whole lot because Michigan has a recipe, and you look at Alex Orji, you kind of feel confident that Michigan's not going to put too much on his plate. And although we have some question marks about the passing attack from a quarterback and pass catcher standpoint, you know that Michigan is going to lean on the run game. You look back at the numbers last year, Michigan only threw the football 40% of the time. That was 117th in the country. It's no secret Michigan wants to run the football. You look at Alex Orji, he can bring you so much juice in this rushing attack that really J.J. McCarthy couldn't bring last year, right? J.J. McCarthy, we all know, is a phenomenal athlete, but with his little bit of a slender frame and how good he was of a quarterback, Michigan didn't want to use him much as a runner. He did it well when we asked him to, but we didn't put that much on his plate in terms of running the football because you wanted to keep him healthy. You look at Alex Orji, yes, we want to keep Alex Orji healthy. He's a guy that can carry a load in the run game. He is basically a linebacker when he has the football in his hands. He's going to add another way that Michigan can attack opposing defenses in this rushing attack. And then you look at the offensive line, probably the second question mark that a lot of people have about this Michigan program. Yes, Michigan loses a ton of talent to the NFL draft. You look at what Michigan has coming back, and this is kind of where it gets to a lot of Michigan fans are confident in this. Not a lot of college football fans that aren't Michigan fans are. And you look at this Michigan offensive line, what has been, in my mind, kind of the secret recipe, if you will, for this Michigan program is keeping their talent within this program. You look at guys like Greg Crippen, Giovanni El-Hadi, Raheem Anderson. Those are three names that probably start on most Power 5 programs across the country, but just didn't start on Michigan the last couple of years. They are now ready to step in going into year four, year three or year four, I should say, of their college football careers. So yes, Michigan loses a ton of talent to the NFL draft on the offensive line. I think a lot of Michigan fans are sitting here and saying this is still going to be a very good offensive line in 2024. And a guy like Miles Hinton, who started some games for Michigan last year, I think, quite frankly, should have or could have been a starting tackle for Michigan in 2023. I think he's that good of a tackle at the college football level. So you look on the offensive side of the football. Yes, we have question marks about what the passing attack is going to look like for this Michigan program. You go back to 2023, you go back to 2022. Michigan doesn't rely on a passing attack. So they're still going to be able to run the football at a high level. You look at the running back room and say Donovan Edwards. I know a lot of Michigan fans, yes, losing Blake Corum hurts. I'll say hand up. He's one of my favorite Michigan Wolverines of all time. A lot of Michigan fans are excited about what Donovan Edwards can do with a little bit more opportunity, because we all know with the football in his hands, he's one of the more explosive running backs that you see in the country. You talk about manufacturing some more explosive plays. Donovan Edwards getting a little bit more touches in 2024, certainly going to help this Michigan offense become a little bit more explosive. So you look at the offensive side of the football and say, I think Michigan is still going to be able to do what they have, what has given them so much success the last couple of years. You look at the defensive side of the football and say, this is still going to be one of the better units that you see in the country. And it really comes down to, in my mind, a couple really rudimentary things that they can do. They can stop the run. They can get after the passer. And you look at elite college football defenses over the last couple of years. You think Michigan in 2023, you think the Georgia Bulldogs the last couple of years. What made those defenses so special? They could stop the run, force teams into third and longs, and get after the passer. You look at this Michigan defense, Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant on the inside, Derek Moore, Josiah Stewart on the edges. This is a team that's going to be able to stop the run and force teams into those third and long situations. Then you have a guy like Wink Martindale getting after opposing quarterbacks. Yes, we have some question marks about the Michigan secondary heading into 2024. I might add, we have probably the best cornerback in the country in Will Johnson. I think this front seven for Michigan is going to alleviate a lot of pressure on some new faces in the secondary, because they can get after the passer just about as good as anybody in the country. It always makes me go back to Kirby Smart heading into 2021 saying, we have a lot of question marks about our secondary. You fast forward a couple months into that 2021 season, those question marks about the secondary, they didn't matter, because that front seven for the Georgia Bulldogs, guys like Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, teams that tried to throw the football on them, it didn't really work out very well because they couldn't protect up front. And you look at this Michigan team and say, yeah, we maybe have some question marks about just a few names in the secondary. I can see Michigan in that front seven really mitigating some of those questions with how good they can be in the pass rush. And I think the last kind of conversation to have is, let's take a look at this Michigan schedule in 2024 and say, how many losses do we see on this schedule? And I think there's really 3 or 4 big games that Michigan fans are focusing on, right? Week 2 against Texas. You do get Texas at home, but Texas is certainly one of the best teams in the country. That is going to be a really, I think, an insightful game for Michigan fans in terms of how good is this Michigan team going to be. We're going to find out real quick in that game. You fast forward and say Arkansas State, that should be a win. You look at Minnesota at home, that should be a win. You go on the road to Washington, a team that really is decimated from the NFL draft last year. Michigan's going to be double-digit point favorites in that one. You look at that game at US or at home against USC and say, that's going to be an interesting one. You go off, you go on the road to Illinois, should be a win. Michigan State win, and then you get Oregon at home. So you look at some of the hardest games that Michigan's going to have, Texas and Oregon, they're both going to be in the big house. And I'm not necessarily sitting here, even as a Michigan fan, and saying Michigan's going to win both of those games. We all know the home field advantage you get in the big house. I think that certainly helps Michigan's chances. You fast forward and say, well, there's no Penn State on this roster. On the road at Indiana, Northwestern, those should be wins. And then you look at on the road at Ohio State. In my mind, there are 3 games where I could see Michigan losing. That's at home against Texas, at home against Oregon, and on the road at Ohio State. You look at a game like USC, which probably is the 4th hardest game on the schedule, and say USC's got a lot of question marks along the lines of scrimmage. You kind of got to favor Michigan in that game, especially at home. 6-6 is wild to me. I could see that if you wanted to say Michigan goes 9-3, drops all 3 games, Texas, Oregon, Ohio State, I could give you that. I think Michigan certainly has some good chances to pick one or two of those games off. Yes, this Michigan team heading into 2024 has a lot of question marks. You replace a lot of the coaching staff, a lot of the players from the NFL draft. This is still going to be a very dangerous team, and it really comes down to two simple facts, and that is they're still going to be able to run the football. They're still going to be able to play good defense. That's how Michigan's won the last couple of years. That's going to be how Michigan wins in 2024 as well. Would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. Again, appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.